Should we do that again for you, Jessica?
No.
Or I could just say, let the record reflect that we had unanimous support to suspend the rules and meet virtually. And we will go to our next item on the agenda, which is I need approval of the minutes.
I can move
to approve.
Yeah.
Oops.
You know what? I'm going to, Ken, that was your motion, but I hear Derek seconding.
Yep, that's a second.
Perfect.
Good team.
Yes, thank you guys. And Jessica, please call the roll.
Thank you. Chair Olds-Frye?
Aye.
Perfect. Vice Chair Ohanian?
Aye.
Perfect. Shri Lackey?
Aye.
Thank you. Ken Rowling?
Aye.
Perfect. And Amanda Ngola?
Aye.
Perfect.
All right. And then we have our next item, which is public comment. I'm going to pause and just say, I don't think it made it officially to the calendar or to the agenda, but we typically provide 2 items of public comment throughout the meeting. We like to sort of tee up an opportunity for discussion before we dive into the meat of the discussion. But then we also want to make sure that there's time for you to provide feedback afterwards. I also want to make sure that everybody knows that our wonderful esteemed committee member, Kathy Hayes, is here as well. Kathy, we've just suspended the rules to meet virtually and adopt the minutes. So you have missed just the technical stuff. So for public comment, I want to make sure that all those in attendance know that now is the time for public comment, or later in the meeting when we provide some opportunity for public comment as well. It is so much harder as a committee member and for all of our committee members to make informed decisions if we hear public comment a week from now, after we've already made decisions or sort of after we've already had a discussion. So as we go through this discussion, both sort of prior to, but then after, please make sure that if you have concerns or you want to voice something, now really is the time with regards to FY23 allocation. So please know it is so much harder for us if we get it after the fact, after we've already made a vote. So with that, I'm going to see if anybody, I know we've gotten 2 emails that perhaps we might want to, you individuals might want to speak up for public comment, but I suspect there could be others who might want to provide public comment.
And Chair, just so you know, we received no virtual public comment, no forms requesting public comment, but for those in attendance, if you just raise your hand virtually, I'm happy to promote you.
And for those who don't know, the raise the hand button is the middle bottom of your screen.
Always appreciate that. It's easy to get lost on all the different formats and technology platforms. Okay. And we did have, I mean, we met, we met until past 11, our last meeting. So there were a lot of public comments, a lot of discussion. I'm going to try my best to have our committee meetings more family friendly, meaning that they end at a more reasonable hour so all of us can sleep. So I'm going to do my best. However, I do want to continue to say that every member of this committee values very much the public input and your comments and your feedback, and we make better decisions when we're informed by your guys' position. So we value public comment, but we will, at this moment, because we're seeing no one raise their hands to provide additional public comment beyond what they provided last meeting till 11 o'clock at night, we're going to move to our discussion and funding guidelines for FY23 public services. And there is an attachment. I believe I need a motion to open discussion.
Actually, Chair Olds-Frye, I'm sorry. Those items were just for file, and we can, if people want to, staff is happy to answer any questions, but we can also just jump right into the allocations if there are no questions. So we don't have to discuss, but I'm here to answer questions if anyone has them.
Here, I'll pose that question to the committee members, do you want to walk through any of the applications? Again, we did that last meeting, but we can just jump into the discussion of the allocations for case management and safety net services.
Just a point of clarification. This is Ken. So we're saying that, or we're suggesting that the funding item 5A, funding guidelines for FY 2023 public services, that was more for information, right? We're not discussing that. Great. Okay. I just want to comment. I thought they're very good. So, okay.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. So I'm seeing no objection. So we'll move to 5B, which is the allocation recommendations. And I think that, we all as individual members scored these applications. And when you look at that distribution, we see just great diversity, which I think is wonderful. It really means that all of our committee members are coming from this with really different perspectives. And, I think that's wonderful. I do want to make sure that we have a really productive conversation today. So what I thought I could do is sort of kick off the conversation with some of the original thoughts I had when I assigned my values or allocation recommendations, and really just, I think, acknowledge that it was very hard. This year we had to reduce funding. And I'm going to get the number wrong because I'm just using it off of my head right now instead of the spreadsheet in front of me. And in my head, it was $95,000. But Jessica, I think it was a little higher.
It was a little bit higher, and that was due to a reduction in CARES Act funding. We used CARES Act funds. We had just under $125,000 in CARES Act funds when we initially made allocations.
So I think that we just have to start off with that every decision, I think every individual member to just make original draft recommendations, at least for me, it was incredibly difficult. I found that everyone who presented last month, every single proposal was impressive, would strengthen the social safety net within our community. And most importantly, I think, it would add value. And I, as chair of this committee, appreciate the time that the staff put into putting in that application and then staying with us and discussing it and educating us and informing us of the work that they do day in and day out. And most importantly, if I could just say this, that even with or without city funding, they're working to make Evanston a better place, and they're succeeding at that. And I'm grateful beyond measure for that. So I think this was a very hard exercise for me. I'm seeing folks nod, so I suspect it was very hard for them. To kick off discussion, I'm going to be brave and walk through sort of what my initial thoughts were and fully acknowledge that they may or may not have been right, but it was sort of how I started the very hard process of making very large reductions to necessary services. And I'm hoping that that'll help us sort of start the discussion of where we land on the various allocations. Because I think if everybody's viewed the spreadsheet, there are ranges on every single line. And I suspect that really stems from the difficult task that was before us as a committee. And so some of the logic I used, though imperfect, was we last year stepped up as go ahead, Jessica.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Chair Oldesbride. Might I have permission to share my screen
Yes.
with the averages? Thank you very much.
That would be very helpful, I suspect, to all of us. So while Jessica's sharing her screen, I'll just begin sort of my logic and we can kick off, and please know that I welcome discussion because I didn't feel, it all felt imperfect. So we last year worked through with different agencies and made allocations. And so once we were in a position this year to make reductions, as hard as it was and as impressive as the new applicants were, my thought, again, imperfectly, was to provide stable funding to our existing services that we were currently funding, so that we, which obviously we still couldn't do. We still had to provide reductions from that, but to sort of prioritize our existing funding and organizations we are currently funding so that they could continue to the best of their ability to do what they did at least last year. So that was sort of some of my logic. The other things I did, and we'll walk through each line, but I looked through the budgets, and I suspect all of you did their very thorough review of their applications, of their budgets. And so some of the things that jumped out at me is if an organization had a lot of other funding, they saw large funding growths from other sources, I thought they might be better positioned to absorb a reduction from the city of Evanston than an organization that didn't necessarily have that same increase. So I made some tweaks there, and it wasn't from, again, in my imperfect allocation, it wasn't because I didn't value those services, but rather I thought that organization could absorb the reduction where others might not be able to. So those were some of the things that I thought through. And then I also didn't want, the last bit was I tried my best, because even if you did all of that, you still had to make reductions. I tried my best to not have too many, to have them align somewhat. Not have one organization have a 2% reduction and one have like a 75% reduction. I tried to sort of align them to some extent. So that was, thank you. I realized I was probably in the wrong Zoom account. Thank you. And so those were that was some of the logic I made in my draft allocations. And I'll just open it up to other committee members and we can just walk through case management first. And then safety nets, or we can discuss it sort of high level as I just did, and then walk through both together. I'll pause for comments from committee members.
I think this is Ken, and I think I would really support your thinking, Samantha. This is my first time through this. I used to work in a foundation for many, many, many years, and I was on boards of foundations. And one of the most difficult things to do is to allocate limited resources to very good projects. So I was, as a first-time member of this committee and a first time looking at this set of services delivered so carefully throughout the city, as just was very painful to look through and figure out that we could not meet the level of requests that were here. So I just that was a conundrum that I found for myself. So I don't want to mess up the process here. So I'm interested in knowing how we move ahead with allocating what we have. And then the question that I have is that I know that the amount available for these requests will not be fully settled, I believe, until May or June. So there may be a possibility, am I correct on this, or am I off on some other tangent, that there may be a possibility of other funding? Again, it's a possibility, and I'm wondering if then at that point, does that potentially extra funding then get do we revisit that in terms of this, with this list, you know, and possibly add to some of these requests, some of these organizations' budgets with those funds? That's a question, I guess, a long question. But
Jessica, would you want to answer?
Yes, please. Thank you. So you're correct, Ken. And the reason for that is this money for public services comes from two sources, and one is known, and that's up from the City of Evanston's Human Services Fund budget, and the other is a little bit of a guess. That is from our Community Development Block Grant. There's a bit of a formula there, but the short story is that the city does not yet know how much we will be awarded in CDBG funds. So we might have, once we do get our final amount, there may be additional money for public services. And if that is the case, it would come before the committee, and committee members can note applications that you would perhaps like to revisit when we do have that information. So you've nailed the process.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I also just explain briefly? So everyone knows we have our three categories: case management, safety net services, and support services. At our last meeting, we did identify mental health providers, and the funds allocated to support services would go to renew that program. And in prior meetings, the Social Services Committee identified like a loose award structure. So 50% of the award for safety net services, 30% for case management, and 20% for support services. And this is just a guideline. And what committee members are seeing here in yellow, this is incorrectly labeled committee allocations, but these are just the average allocation recommendations from everyone who submitted award suggestions. These are not final.
Thank you, Jessica. And thank you, Ken, for your comments and raising that very important issue that this has always been an iterative process just because of timing. We want to give these organizations as much time as possible with funding and in sort of some predictability. But the federal government's timeline is not always our timeline. All right. Are there other comments from the committee, or we can?
I mean, if we're kind of talking about our process, I agree. This was very, very challenging, and every organization clearly has merit and their requests are valid and legitimate. So it was very difficult. So my process was a little bit different, though I do like what you were saying, Samantha, as well, her chair as well. But I just did kind of an across the board percentage off of everyone because I felt like everyone, really did have a valid request. So mine was a little bit different, but I'm open to, whatever we settle on. So.
And I started with that, and then it felt so deep. If it had been a 5, and I'll just, and my thought process was, if it had been a 5% cut across the board from everybody's request, I would have done that and called it a day and sent the spreadsheet in in 2 seconds. But it was just a really deep cut. And so then once that happened, I started to really think about, well, what would that mean for organizations that had already employed staff using this funding? And so that was sort of when I started to think about, okay, I will just say, I think, it's really unfortunate, but an organization came to us because they got one-time funding from a different funding source. And, that organization that funded them gave them 1 year. And I remember when I found out about that, I got really frustrated. Like, why would you you can't sort of cut somebody off like cut off a good program like that. And so I didn't want to, Ken is having trouble seeing the screen, Jessica, but I see it.
So it's probably my computer.
Sorry about that, Ken. I don't know, maybe.
Okay.
You're just looking at the allocation template that,
Right.
Yep.
And I have that in the packet or the materials that Jessica sent us, so I can follow along there. Thanks.
No, perfect. So I was just, that stuck with me of not wanting to do what another community funder did that I found frustrating, I guess is the word I will use.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I similarly, once I backed into that, Amanda, I did this sort of to the best of my ability across the board. I tried to keep it equal-ish. Other thoughts, comments? I mean,
I would have to agree. It was very difficult. We have relationships with many of these organizations as far as working with them over the year or years. The work that they've done in the community is highly valuable. And I hope they understand this is an issue for us, or at least for me, of we don't have enough money to fund to the full amount. It is not a reflection on the quality of work that they do and the impact that they provide in the community. I am extremely grateful for the impact and the services they provide. It's just that we don't have enough pennies to go around for everyone, and if we, and I'm so open to, if down the road, hopefully down the road, we get funding. Unfortunately, this is the cycle of social service agencies all over. We look for funding in rounds almost. And I'm so open to being able to facilitate some of their needs once we are able to get some more cash.
Yes. Oh, yes, Kathy. And I would just say, I know that our council committee members can't be here today. And I hope that the whole council will recognize, I think, the very thorough discussion this committee has had, and obviously we'll continue to have. But once we get to the point of figuring out what our allocations are, I suspect they'll recognize they were very painful. And if they want to send them back for further discussion, I think we welcome further discussion and more pennies, to Kathy's point. So, I think that would be, because I don't think anybody, I guess I will speak for myself. I don't want to speak for our esteemed committee members. No, I will not be excited about the allocations I make this evening, or the votes we end up making, simply because they're painful. I would love to grant every single request and give a little bit extra to do a little bit more. And that's just not the position we're in this year. And so it is we've had a very thorough, hopefully, I think thoughtful discussion. We'll continue to have it. But the issue comes down to pennies, not to process or the value of these amazing organizations and the work that they do for our neighbors. All right. Other committee members, or we can just sort of start with some logic around case management and see where we land. All right, Jessica, I got some sense, but please jump in that what would the allocations look like if we, were to only fund existing groups? What could we increase their allocations to for case management only? So we would have another, 64,829. Am I just two?
That is correct. Could I first call for a motion to accept the recommendations as listed, not because we're accepting them, but because that would open the discussion around the allocations.
Perfect. I need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Kathy. I need a second. Do I need a second for discussion?
No.
No. Great. I just need a motion. All right.
So if we wanted to, and this spreadsheet is interactive, thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
And I've got Marion here in case I mess anything up.
I'm here.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I thank you. But so that's what it would look like if we did not fund the new agencies, and committee members can see, then we would be under our allocation amount for the case management category by $59,929. So should committee members like, I can start there and then we can increase others, or we can put things back. We can.
Sorry, I'm not seeing the sheet. So could you just let me know? Could you just?
I will walk you through, Ken. We put right now 0 for connections for homeless youth, not because they're not valuable, but because they weren't in 22, and then 0 for impact behavioral health.
Got it. Okay.
And then that gives us a little under $60,000 to potentially allocate to organizations that were previously funded. And my instinct is, looking at this allocation based off the averages, we are at about 94%. We're at 94% of Cook County's 22 award. And then 67 and 70% for the other 3 organizations. And my thought is using some of that, again, this is an imperfect thought process. Others, please jump in if you disagree. Using some of that nearly 60,000 to increase family focus and infant welfare and the Moran Center's funding to get them closer to where they were last year. Those are my initial thoughts.
I don't know if I'm in support of, eliminating people just because they didn't apply last year, because I think the services that they're offering are really useful, and it does add to the services offered in Evanston. So I don't know. I guess I'm not in a full agreement with the premise, but.
And then to that, then are you thinking?
I mean, I just think, everyone just maybe gets a little bit less, but there are 2 other organizations that are providing something. Now, what we end up offering them or what the percentage of their request is, I guess we have to decide. But I mean, I guess I'd like to hear what other committee members maybe have to say about it. Does everyone feel strongly that we should eliminate the 2 because they didn't ask last year, or do people want to, I guess I'm curious about that.
And I do want to just flag as we jump into that, those same organizations are also listed below within the safety net services too. So we'll have it. So that might be an opportunity to sort of figure that out as well, either place.
Sure.
That's the point.
Right. That is sorry, this is Ken again. That would be my thinking as well, that both of those organizations, again, it's painful for me to say this, but both of those organizations are on the other list as well, so that and I think, so to me that we will at least be funding at least a somewhat significant amount for each of those organizations in the other category. The concern that I have is that under the safety net services category, we're considerably over, right? The amount that's available, if I'm reading this correctly.
Jessica, can you scroll down just a little bit? We are over 27,000.
Yeah. Okay. So I see. Okay. So we're in the same situation. Again, I'm not making it equivalent, but we're in the same situation as we are with the case management ones that we're over. But if we took out the 2 that are still considered for funding under the safety net services, and had not applied a year ago, they're new, therefore in that category. well, we free up enough money to add to the other organizations.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm saying I would stick with that. My opinion would be to stick with taking the two organizations, Connections and Impact Behavioral Health, and removing them from this category for funding at this point, and reallocating those funds, those freed up funds across the other renewal requests.
And Kathy, I apologize. You have your hand up.
No worries. I knew this was going to be an emotional discussion for all of us. I happen to agree with Amanda because Connections to Care's request is so specific in nature to youth. I'm uneasy with eliminating them off the board for youth. Behavioral impact, I understand what you're saying, but because at the end of the math, we are 30,000 over, that's why partial allocation or seed allocation, which I put in my mind as a seed payment, even though they're getting other funds elsewhere, would help them get off the ground to address specific, very specific populations. And that's the only, not the only reason, don't get me wrong, but that's the primary reason why I emphasize partially funding them, so the both of them, so that the seed, that this could be represented as seed money for them to get these programs activated in the community.
Perfect. No, great. And good call out on youth. And Derek, I see your hand up. Do you want to provide some feedback?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I would agree with Kathy and Amanda on this. And my approach to this is a little bit more not agency centric, although of course it's the agencies that are providing the services, but more so the function that they're fulfilling, the problem or the void that they're trying to solve. And I think when I think about case management, when I think about specifically Connections for the Homeless, developing or trying to build this youth program, and I like the way Kathy described it as seed funding for that with their request, I think that is, I don't think we should focus on the fact that it's an agency that wasn't here last year, or didn't request last year for this specific service or this offering. It's more so what problem are they trying to solve within Evanston? And I think that's what's more important to me.
Got it. Okay. And I will just say, I guess I did, in full transparency, my thought on the case management piece is a little different than the safety net services piece, as it's not only that they, we ask these organizations to come before this committee and really build a program out where they would be hiring care coordinators or case managers specific for our population. And so when you get to a significant, a 30% or more reduction, that probably is going to start to impact headcount. And so that was sort of my process and thought process. But I do very much hear you on the need for, especially the youth program from Connections. And I like the way you sort of phrase that, Kathy, that seed money. Ken, I don't want to, Derek, your hand is still up. Did I accidentally interrupt you? Perfect. Thank you. Ken.
No, you did not interrupt me. Thank you. So the chart I'm looking at shows that the Impact Behavioral Health Services is not repeated is not a second one under safety net services.
So I think I made a mistake. I under case management, Impact is listed, and then infant well welfare is listed, and then infant welfare has a new safety net service. So I apologize. That was a mistake on my behalf.
So the question that I have though is that wasn't Impact Behavioral Health moved onto the mental health list at the last meeting? And was that funded by the city council? I'm sorry, I did not see, what was the council's final decision. Remember, there were 3 organizations or companies, I think one was for profit, who received the special mental health allocations, and then we added, I thought we added Impact Behavioral Health. And if they were funded, I could see a reason, if they were funded there, I could see a reason for not funding them under this category.
So I could speak to that. Impact Behavioral Health was added by City Council as a mental health provider. And no organization, none of the providers have received funding yet, but I do hope to have service agreements out for their review by February. And I do anticipate that Impact will receive referrals from a number of our case or from our case management partners, including Connections. So I cannot speak to how much Impact would receive from those services, but
Gotcha.
we do remain in partnership with them.
Great, that's helpful.
Great call out, Ken. Thank you. Sherry. Oh, did you have your hand?
Oh yeah, I had it up.
There we go.
So for me, Connections, especially their youth program, I'm more in line with funding them as much as we can. Because Impact Behavioral Health already has a partnership with the city of Evanston, even if we didn't give them as much money, we could give them something to have a percentage of a case manager, because I think case management is needed throughout the community.
Okay. Then Oh, Kathy, I apologize. I was looking at the spreadsheet.
I understand. We're all meditating over these numbers, praying and meditating over these numbers. My second issue is the Housing Authority of Cook County regarding senior buildings. If we do decide, and this is hypothetical only, it's not a suggestion. If we did decide to change behavioral health amount, will we not, given the affordability crisis that we are having, that everyone is having all through Cook County regarding affordable, accessible housing for seniors, for families, for individuals, would it be an opportunity for us to increase the funding suggestion for them at that point? Or would that throw everything back off again?
Well, I think if we're adding, I think I want to make sure I understand the Housing Authority of Cook County's senior buildings. That's just the thresholds care manager at and I think it's maybe more than one at the Housing Authority, but it's not actually like the, but I do think it would. I mean, I think if we're adding money, I think this is why we probably need more pennies, to be perfectly honest, because if we're rightfully trying to make sure that Connections for the Homeless can have a youth program, and which I think we all, understand the need for, And then if we want to give impact some seed money, I mean, we already have 30% reductions in all the other organizations' care management, which will reduce what they can do and their ability to do what we've asked them to do. Everybody but Cook County will actually have a pretty sizable reduction from what they had last year.
Yeah.
So I do think, I mean, we can plug in ideal numbers, but I think what we will unfortunately quickly see is we have to reduce some ideal numbers. Here.
Plugged in numbers.
Oh.
Sorry.
No.
Thank you, Chair. One other dimension just to consider with this is the percentage of the program budget that's being requested, so the agency's own program budget as well. So I think with some agencies, the request itself, for example, with Cook County, it's 100% what they're asking for versus, for example, Infant Welfare Society, what they're asking for is 3% of the program budget. So I think we probably want to factor that in too as we try to modulate these numbers to fill the remainder that's there while also trying to help make some of the other programs whole.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. It does to me. It's imperfect, obviously, but
it'll be arbitrary. It'll be arbitrary either way.
Yeah. But no, I agree with that idea. And actually, Jessica, is it easy for you? And if it's not, but to sort of just walk through of the case management, because I just want to finalize case management before we go to the next, our draft finalization, I guess I'll call it. Can you easily walk through the percentage of the budget for each of these so we can, to Derek's point, sort of think about that in a holistic manner?
I see. Yes, I can. And this information, just for our viewing audience, is included in the packet, starting on, I believe, page 11. So the Connections for the Homeless Youth Program request is 5% of that budget. The Family Focused Case Management request is 15% of the budget. The HAC request is 100% of the budget, and 88% of the service agreement with thresholds. The service agreement with thresholds is for $80,000. Impact Behavioral Health, that request is 8% of the budget. And Infant Welfare Society for their case management, that is 3% of the budget request. And finally, Moran, that case management request is 20% of the budget. And I can also very easily plug numbers in and play with the spreadsheet if that would be helpful.
I think based off, I'll just throw something out there just so people can disagree or agree, based off of sort of that thought process, or not, Derek's point, very good point. My instinct is to try to get, hearing members of the committee and not at all disagreeing, trying to get Connections for the Homeless, I'll call it seed money as Kathy did, and then trying to increase the Moran Center a little higher given the percentage of their budget that this is compared to some of the other organizations. And those are my instincts, but.
Chair, if I can make one comment here.
Yeah,
I think in practice what this would potentially look like is I would even go as far as to say HAC should be made whole to their request.
To their request or to their funding from last year? Okay. To
their request. I think if the budget itself is, about 100%. I mean, at least that's my thinking. And then the Moran Center, I would at least bring them up to their budget from the year before. I don't know what that does to the numbers there, but yeah. So maybe potentially went a little too far, but and then what's remaining, we can allocate
to the connections. Is that your thought?
Well, not necessarily just all the connections, but impact as well.
Okay.
I think. At least that's my thinking right now.
Okay. What if we did, I just worry splitting up 18,000 isn't going to do much for either organization. I'm just going to throw something out there. Please, I don't even, what if we did 65,000 for HAC and 65,000 for Moran? And then what if we gave, I don't know. I still feel like that's not a ton to split between those two groups.
60-60 between HAC.
Let's try 60. Yeah, I think so. I think that might.
60.
Yeah, 60-60.
So I think we started at like 48, 49. So HAC
Yeah.
gets another 11, 12. Yeah.
And what if we just, I'm just going to throw a number out here. What if we were, this is sort of silly. I guess it's silly either way. And we could either split that 38. Do we want to try to split it?
Yeah.
Evenly? Is that what you're thinking?
That's what I was thinking. I'm sorry to butt in, but that's what I was thinking. And that would be representative of seed money.
Yeah. What if we, I'm going to throw out a brand, it might be silly, but if we reduced, I don't know, family focus by like 1,000 and infant welfare by like 1,000 or whatever's necessary, we could just give each 20,000 as opposed to, like 19.
I got it.
I don't know.
I think that works. And then 1,000 off of family focus and 1,000 off of.
Or 7. Yeah.
Or yeah, is it more
Yeah,
like
it's
500
7.
each or something like that?
That works too. I just thought try to get them a rounded
number.
Yeah.
I mean, 461, we might be able to find that. Why don't we'll deal with the we could just do 52,000 for infant welfare and that'll get you quite close. And then we'll find the $38
somewhere.
I can write it, we'll figure that out. Yeah, we can find those pennies. Oh, I lost your screen.
Okay, there's back. Yeah.
Okay. I think I'll pause. How do committee members feel about this approach?
I like it. I think it's a lot more equitable.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I apologize. Was that Amanda?
Oh, just saying, me too. I agree. I like it.
Should we, I'll ask the committee member, should we pause for public comment for anybody from case management before we move on to safety net services, or do we want to have public comment just at the end?
I'd say at the end.
At the end, I'm going to go for the end.
Perfect. That's all right. So we are over in safety net services by 27,000. I welcome recommendations on or thought processes on this, on safety net services. I don't know what, I thought Derek's point last time, Jessica, it was very helpful. Could you walk through for us, I apologize, I keep putting you on the spot, but the percentage of the budget, and then anything that's over 20%, if you could just like kind of color code the cells, since there are a few more organizations, that way we can keep it all straight. And by we, I mostly mean that I don't lose track of it.
You're not putting me on the spot at all. Thank you so much. So books and breakfast, the request is 6% of the budget. For CNE, the Child Care Network of Evanston, the Learning Together program, that request is 58% of the budget.
What?
Here I go.
Can you say that number again? I just want to make sure.
Sure, 58% of the budget. However, 87% is really passed through to the providers who are, or the clinicians who are providing the developmental therapeutic services to the preschoolers. Okay, CNE's mental health program, the request is 64% of their budget, that budget. Connections for the Homeless, the drop-in outreach and health services, that request is 11% of the budget. Infant Welfare Society, the request is 3% of their budget. Interfaith Action, you know what, I apologize. I need to recheck their budget. I will have that information for you momentarily. There was some clarification around their budgets. James B. Moran Center, the request for social services, or excuse me, legal services under Safety Net is 7% of the budget. Meals on Wheels is also 7% of the budget. North Shore Senior Center's request is 2% of the budget. Peer Services is 4% of the program budget. YOU's request is 33% of the budget, and the YWCA request is 1% of the budget.
If we can color code YOU just so we don't lose track of them, because that you said 33. Did I hear that right?
Yes, correct.
My initial thoughts are to try to, much like we did in the last one, when we are a larger funder for that organization, to try to come in closer to their request compared to when we're a single digit funder, just from the impact to the community services. I'll tee that off and see what people think. Jessica, was it, I apologize, was it Child Care Network? What was the group that lost funding from a different funding source?
That was Child Care Network for the mental health program.
Yeah. Oh, and I apologize, Derek, I think that's a new hand.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Jessica, sorry, I want to ask for more color coding here. It's a very colorful spreadsheet, but can we possibly, because I think of several of these are around 10% or less. What were they again? Or can we just make those like a different color?
No, I didn't get a great call out.
Yeah, because some of these are like 3%, 2%, 1%, 4%. So
how about under, you want to do under 10 or under 5?
Under 10 maybe, yeah.
We can also add a column if that's helpful, Jessica.
Yeah, or the number itself. Even the number itself would be helpful, but I wasn't sure if we wanted to put all that on the screen.
Thank God you're brilliant, Jessica.
So this is all Marion. She's our spreadsheet wizard here.
All right.
We'll go through and highlight those that are under 10, starting at the top.
And am I working in the right spreadsheet right now?
Mm-hmm.
See the new column.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so are you able to read the numbers again? I'm sorry. Starting from the top.
Sure. The top meaning case management.
Books and breakfast.
Books and breakfast is 6% of the budget.
Mm-hmm.
CNE's Learning Together program is 58% of the budget.
Yep.
CNE's mental health services is 64% of the budget.
Yep.
Connections for the Homeless is 11% of the budget. Infant Welfare Society is 3% of the budget. I need just a minute for Interfaith Action, and then I can provide that. Moran Center is 7% of the budget. Meals on Wheels is also 7% of the budget. North Shore Senior Center is 2% of the budget. Peer Services is 4% of the budget. And YWCA is 1% of the budget.
Did you say 5%?
1%.
What about YOU?
Oh, YOU, I apologize. That's 33% of the budget.
Okay, thank you.
So I think I heard a couple of these toward the bottom that were 1 or 2%. I'm almost tempted just by virtue of that to take more of that 27,000 overage as much as possible and see what that looks like. I think it was YWCA and Peer Services, if I'm not mistaken.
It was North Shore Senior Center was 2% at least.
Okay. Yeah.
But Peer Center might have also been low.
It's like 4%. I think Peer was 4%. So some of these are pretty low.
I did notice also, I believe it was North Shore Senior Center also saw some other increases in funding from other sources. When I was looking through their budget documents, probably. Okay, so interfaith is also very high. Okay. What would it look like? I'm just going to throw something out. I don't know where it'll land. So if it's horrible, we can just erase all of it. But maybe it's worth, I apologize, to add another column because I just don't want to lose the averages. But what if we did 90% of the request for the 4 that are, a significant portion where we're funding, and then 70% of everybody else. And I just don't know where that would leave us, over or under.
Sure. And Jessica, just so you know, I created a copy of the sheet just in case we would be in that situation where we want to keep the original, but want to play with the numbers. So you do have a backup on the second tab if you need to play with things.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that this is a great idea, but I'm not too sure how to do this. So from my understanding, we're giving agencies that are basically in green 90% of their request, and all others that are a smaller portion of the budget 70% of their request.
But I think, Jessica, why don't we try just for the 3, right? Was it Child Care Network? The 2 from them and the YA. Why don't we just, in the yellow cell for them, I think Gerald's where I heard you correctly, you want to do 90% multiplied by their current request?
Yes.
So why don't we just do =0.9 times that cell? Yeah, no, let's do it for the 3 and see where we are.
And you don't want to do it for interfaith too, where we're 40% of their budget?
Oh, we did get the number for that? Oh, I didn't. Yeah. I think if it's above that 30% rule or 20% rule, we should. Yeah, so
then we would need to
too, yeah. Did we do it for Learning Together yet? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. Or for yeah. Oh, did you get a second 9 in there accidentally for Learning Together, Jessica? No. Oh, it's 99% of their. I'm sorry, I lost the column.
Oh,
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Watch me though. Yes.
No,
it takes many. many eyes on these spreadsheets. Okay.
Okay. And I just threw out 70%, but like looking at, well, I guess.
I think we'd be over. We'd be over
Yeah.
by a lot. So we have to, our shortfall is 113,000.
If we,
Mhm.
And we've got a lot. I mean, in purple 7.
mm-hmm.
So if we wanted to just equally cut across the board, what is that? Maybe 17,000 off of each, which I don't think some of them would even have, but I guess that's one way, but.
Yeah. But at that point, then do you just leaving somebody, I mean, much like we didn't want to give connect, up above less than like 20,000, like it just, you lose, it loses its, point.
Can we go through and change like individuals that we're funding at 1%, 2%, put them at the 20,000 maybe?
Oh, like just give them, if we're that small of your budget, we just give you a clean 20,000.
Yeah.
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 Although they're very close to that already, but why
Yeah.
is WCA 20,000?
Peer services would cut a lot.
Yeah.
Your services is asking for almost 100, so to cut it to 20 seems kind of cruel.
I mean,
We'd essentially be giving them 1% of their budget at that point, because I think if it's 4 or 5% at the 100K, I think we'd be saying here's 1% of your budget with the 20,000.
What?
we can round, we can come back to peer support, but we can round off that $335 won't make much of a difference, but we can do it.
To 20,000.
Yeah.
Even.
I'm sorry, Jessica, this has got to be so hard. We're all just staring at your typing.
I'm with you guys. Sorry.
And honestly, to take that approach, you actually end up increasing infant welfares ever so slightly. But I think it's the right thing to, just have that round number for them. And we're still at $106,000.
So are we saying the same thing for Meals on Wheels? Even though they're at 7%?
Well, we didn't do it. That's a question.
Right.
Do we go up? I mean, we stopped at, I guess the highest one there was, we did it for 1% and 2% and 3%. We stopped at 4% because of the peer services discussion.
Okay.
But if we're going to reduce, where we're a larger portion for Meals on Wheels, I think we need to probably go back to that peer services discussion.
Yeah.
I think peer services and Connections for the Homeless drop in outreach. I think even though it's 11% of their budget, that's not as obviously as high as some of our other orgs.
Yeah.
So I think those are the two that I would look at for reductions.
So at this point, we're looking to reduce like by about 100,000, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't reduce, I mean, there's also books and breakfast, which we have not talked about. And we're at 6% of their budget. I mean, I think we all think they do wonderful. Everybody has
Mhm.
So I'm sorry if I'm understanding.
Standing, would it be helpful for me to perhaps round down?
Yes,
One.
that'll make some movement at least.
Right. to round numbers, everyone to a round number.
Yeah, I feel comfortable with that. Didn't really change much, but at least the spreadsheet's cleaner now.
Chair, if I can make a recommendation, I think maybe the 90% making whole rate might be a little too high, even for the ones that are a larger portion. We played around with like 75 or 80.
You want to try 80 and see where that leaves us?
Yeah.
And did we do, hold on, let me just check.
Oh, that's for child care network.
To do 80% instead of 90%.
Oh, okay.
I mean, just we'll see where it lands, and then.
Yeah. And would that be the same for youth
for
and opportunity?
Yeah, and interfaith.
Why are you?
So 75,000.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will just throw out, I look at this and a few things that jump out at me are the 94% of, for books and breakfast, pretty level funding, but we're just 6% of their budget versus some of the, that's an outlier, I guess. I understand why, just, and then same for North. Oh, I guess, I'll just say this, and I think North Shore does wonderful things. I don't know what that $20,000 at 2% of their budget, I don't know if it provides value. I don't know what the grant oversight costs are versus what they can do. I don't know. I'll just anybody else got any ideas?
I don't, but I have a question. Forgive my ignorance, but why does it say 141%? I don't know.
It's because I did this earlier. It's because of their the G is request from the prior year. It's not their request for
141% of the prior request.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I did the same thing though. And maybe that's a discussion. Do we look at what we funded them at last year?
Well, the only reason why I'm concerned about looking at their funding from last year is because we had a different international global circumstance, which is the same reason why I didn't hold against other agencies the fact that they did not apply for last year, because the circumstance was so dramatically different than all of the arenas: health, mental health, equity and welfare, and sustainability. I didn't use it against them because the situations were so unique last year and the year before.
Yeah. And I'll add to that, Kathy, that Child Care Network didn't apply because they had funding from a previous funding, a different funding source that no longer exists for that mental health service piece. So we just need to find 75,000 essentially. I know that's not quite, I'll say 74,000.
So
could I maybe round YOU down to 96,800 or round them up? I know that's not going to help.
How about round them down to 96,000?
Yeah,
period.
I mean, it doesn't, but yeah, just give them, it doesn't change but it will make the spreadsheet look
conundrum.
nice.
Yeah.
As we're looking at
It'll be cleaner.
Yeah.
I know that sounds.
Ken. Oh, I'm sorry. Amanda, did you also?
I didn't have my hand up, so yeah, sorry. I'll raise my hand.
Did we lose you, Ken?
No, he's still there. He's got his hand raised.
Are you talking on mute?
Okay. I don't know. We can't hear him.
Might be
Yeah,
having
we
mic
can't-
issues.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to Amanda, but hopefully your mic issue will be resolved. Worst case, you can put it in the chat and we can read it. Amanda, I apologize.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Well, I wonder if this might be a situation where an across the board reduction might help something small. I'm not like the math person here, but like a 2% or like 3,000 each or something like that, just to get us going in that direction. 5,000 each, that might be a little harsh, but if there's, I think 12, that would get us a little closer to the 75, but just a thought.
Committee members? I don't disagree.
I think she's got a valid point.
Ken, you want to try
So
to?
that, I'm so sorry. So that would be about what? 6,000, 7,000?
6,000, a little, $6,167.
Right.
If we're even, I would not recommend that we try to, get to exactly that. But
I'm sorry, just as a point of order.
So that would be me reducing peer services by 900, James B. Moran Center by 8. Is that what we're talking about?
Actually, reducing them by $3,000 each.
Okay, thank you.
Well, sorry, 3,000 or 6,000 to get to 72, because I think there are 12 programs. So
Right.
Yeah.
it would be 6 to finish off the exercise.
Yeah.
Ken, are you able to?
No, he's having mute problems still. Is it possible to join by phone?
And you can join by phone.
I posted the phone number in the chat. The only thing is to make sure you're staying muted so that it doesn't create echo. And your sound on your computer should also be off, ideally. Both microphone and sound.
So are we back to the idea of doing $6,000 to each category? Is that where we last left off?
Yeah, I think so. I'll
That's
flag.
very painful for me to say, let me add.
Yeah.
That is very painful for me to say.
Me too, but maybe we can just play with it and see what it looks like, and then we can add or shift things around.
Yeah, that was my thought too. I thought it was a great place to start, Amanda. Like, let's see what that looks like and then adjust. That really does. I will just say, that leaves 3 organizations with like 14,000.
Yeah,
and very small portions of their budget, 1%, 2%, and 3% of their budget at $14,000. Whereas we might be able to strengthen the support for some other organizations that to a point where it could. What I don't want to, I guess what I'm, Ken, great. Can you hear us? Can we hear you?
Can you talk to us, Ken?
Not yet. I need to just confirm that. Okay. Yeah, I am gonna. So I cannot promote the phone as a panelist, but I can allow him to speak. So that's what I'll do.
All right.
You should be able to speak and participate now. And we can still see your video.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, fine. So the thought I had was, or that I have is that I'm not able to, like, at this point, remember all of the budgets and the projected income and expenses for each of these organizations, and that would affect for me the which of the applicants we might need to we might reduce, right, or which of these allocations we might reduce. And so my thought is, I'm wondering, can we defer this decision on this category for like the next week, and maybe have staff or even a couple of committee members go through all of the budgets of the organizations and figure out which of these have better prospects or good prospects of raising their budget, right? Especially where we're only 1 or 2 or 4 or 6% of their budget. So that's the thought I had. Did you hear that?
We did.
We definitely heard it.
Okay.
I think for me, the issue is we still have to adhere to a timeline of submitting these numbers into council to vote on.
Right.
If council sends it back, that's one thing. But if we don't go forward, that's I think it feels to me like something different than council sending it back saying, work it out some more. That's just my feeling. And that's one, and I hope you guys have some more feelings.
Jessica, you have a question. You are not a question. Your hand is raised. I hope that's with an answer.
And some feelings.
This may be, what is the saying? Robbing Peter to pay Paul. But if I could suggest, so the support services category currently has about $350,000 for the next 2 years. And the support services awarded in 2023, combined with the support services awarded in 2024, would go to refund that category. So perhaps I know that we are under the category estimate for support services, but I guess what I'm saying is I think, should the committee agree, maybe cutting into support services the way we are with this allocation is not going to be quite as damaging, or we can assess what that means for our support services budgets a year or 2 from now.
So I'm going to ask a question. I see that number. So, and I just can't recall, we just voted on support services and the number was, how much did we give them for 23-ish? I mean, I know it's a little different. It's different.
Yeah, the current amount we have
in our support services pot is $350,000. So 150 is carved out for individual services and 200,000 is carved out for group services over a 2-year period, with the idea being that any support services allocated in 2023 and 2024 would go to renew the program and keep it running.
So if the program, and again, the challenge
on my end is I don't know how quickly we're going to go through funds for that program, but believe me, I will provide plenty of updates to the committee as services get up and running. But if we now have roughly 122 and change to renew that program in this first year, with the potential of additional funding in 2024,
we would be in an okay, I get it.
we're in
Because
an
the
okay
350 we allocated, like, we don't have to, that was from last year's pool of dollars.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Thank
Correct.
you.
And so, yeah.
Ken, is your hand raised?
Yeah, he was
again?
trying to say
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep. Yeah. So are you saying that on the chart I'm looking at, it says the amount over for the support services is 74,000, I mean, under is 74,000. You're saying we could apply, should we apply that to the safety net services and therefore close the gap between 565 and 491? Is that what you're suggesting?
Mm.
No, so when you say close the gap, currently,
Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So currently our support services is a little bit under our projected budget by 74,000.
Yep.
And that might be where we land in this funding cycle. If it is, I hear that this is a real labor of love, and I agree with all of the comments about the agencies, and I think if the committee feels comfortable with these recommendations and does not want to cut further, then perhaps we don't have to add any more to that support services bucket in this funding round. Or I'm wondering how the committee would feel about that. I wouldn't say it's a staff recommendation, but I am saying staff can provide additional information about the support services budget once that program really gets up and running. So we know how quickly we're going through funds and how much we would need to replenish the program to keep that viable past 2025.
That is a very helpful item to point out, and the amount is quite close. I have Kathy and I have Marion. Oh,
I was gonna put my hand down.
Okay, Kathy, I have nothing for you.
I was gonna put my hand down because I was like, wait now. So we are hedging against the future budgets. Is that what I'm understanding? In essence,
a little bit, yes.
Suggestion.
Yes.
So here I go way out the box. So forgive me in advance. So if we have the turbulence in 2024, like we had in 2021, we would come up short, would it not? Would we not?
So you're correct, but could I offer to the committee, then rather than coming up short, our support services budget, in future years would be reduced. So perhaps those services would be limited in future years. Yeah, that would be the risk.
Basically, we can make cuts now and not have to cut. Potentially, we also may still have to cut in the future. We should be really
absolutely
clear. But we're increasing the likelihood that we would have to cut in the future by not cutting now. But we're also giving organizations,
and that's where my kind of thought is. At either rate, we're going. That's on, and it's my thought only, is that if we cut now, we still may have to cut in the future. I'm just a smidgen nervous about hedging our budgets to the future projectors. That's just my uncomfortable feeling. But I'm a tightwad, so you know I could be completely wrong. I could be completely wrong, but I'm just insecure about that. I'd love to hear from someone else who has, like you, Jessica.
Oh, I hear you. I feel all the things with you, Kathy. Marion, you have your hand up, and Ken, I think you still have. I can't tell if it's a new hand or an old hand.
I simply wanted to clarify to make sure even the audience understands, because I'm trying to understand as well. So what you're currently discussing, what I'm seeing is that with the current numbers on the screen, it's the totals with all three categories are balancing out. We're over around $74,000 in safety net, and we're under around support services. You're not necessarily discussing going deeper into support services, even lower, to fund more in safety nets, right? We're just talking about the balancing of the two.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Derek, Amanda, 3, 10.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what's been said. It feels like a tough choice. But I think I might lean a little bit more in favor of hedging a little bit, because it seems like we've kind of reached an impasse with these safety net services, and like we're sort of feeling like it'd be hard to really cut much more. And I understand we may have to face some really tough decisions down the road because of it, but I think I'd be okay with doing that if but I'll go with what the committee feels. But I think that's where I'm kind of leaning right now.
Derek, Vice Chair.
Yeah, Chair. I would agree with Amanda's comment that I think we're at an impasse. I don't know, other than playing around with the 80-70% that ratio that we applied to the blue agencies they're colored in, or is that green, or I'm not sure. Other than doing that, I don't really see what else we can start to take from other agencies. And I think a comment, I believe you made this, Chair, somebody made it maybe a few minutes ago, was doing this now and setting the expectation now that we may have to, we'll be hedging against the future and having an issue. We have plenty of time to telegraph to the support service agencies as well, right?
Yeah. And to safety net service agencies,
yeah,
as well. Like, we are doing our best. We are hedging, and we believe strongly in you. But also, if you find other grants, we recommend you pursue them.
Yep. Plenty of time to potentially figure this out in a year, or think through it for the next year after we've made our decisions now, and that there's some comfort to that. So yeah,
that's a good call out. Other Ken.
Yes. Can you hear me now? All right.
Yes.
I'm hoping you can hear me. Okay.
We
good.
can.
So just one other. I like the direction of the conversation. I too can go along with what we can agree on. The other thought that hits me is that if indeed we find out in later this year that there is more money available than not, we can then we could, if there is more money available, we could use that to cover this $74,000 that we want to move into the case management category from the into the safety net category from support services.
That's a good call out. So give these organizations some predictability. Recognize that we might not even be hedging as much as we're hedging, because we're using a conservative estimate for our federal funding sources. Am I understanding that right, Ken, what you're saying? Did I paraphrase that correctly?
Yes. And I think we need to be really transparent with, obviously, it's not that we're not, but I think we need to communicate to everybody, this was how we made this decision. Or this is the recommendations we're making to the city council. And they're based on, we had to do a lot of cutting, but we're also moving some funds from one category to another. And if we can't replace those down the road, there will be other cuts, I think just really be clear upfront what we're doing here.
Yeah, absolutely. That way it's not a surprise. I mean, nobody wants to be surprised.
Right.
Do I hear any dissent or alternative approach that any committee member would like to make a recommendation on?
If I could, Chair.
Olds Fry, just say that we're working to admit Councilmember Burns in as a panelist. Councilmember Burns, if you can hear this, I believe we're sending you invitations, and we're trying.
I don't have a dissent, but I know that for a lot of nonprofits, funding is disappearing very fast. So whatever we can do now to kind of keep these programs here, then yeah, we can work on the future funding.
That's a great call out. Thank you. I want to wait till we have Councilmember Burns so we can at least sort of, oh, do we have you, Councilmember Burns? Can you hear us? And can we hear you? I see your name, but you are muted. Perhaps double muted?
Yes, I can hear you. How you doing?
We've had a very challenging meeting, but we can catch you up on where we are, if that would be helpful.
I think I have a good sense, but I don't want to prolong the meeting. But I think I understand the dilemma.
Yes, I think reductions are not in at least my nature. So it was a difficult task before us. I have no additional comments. I think it's an imperfect solution to an incredibly challenging task. And it is, I think it is a sound, logical proposal that will try to do the very best that we can do, given the limitation on what we would like to do. I think we would like to provide more funding.
Chair, can I make a suggestion? Might we open
up
public comment?
I'm sorry. Yes, to see if any agencies may not be viable given where their funding is, or in case that changes decisions, or
yes.
Okay, thank you. So agency representatives, I apologize, if you would like to provide comment, please raise your hands and we will do our best to promote you to speak.
I've got Anne Brown
with Peer Services. I'm just going to go in order of the list here.
Thanks so much, Jessica. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to acknowledge how challenging this is and how seriously you are all taking these decisions. So I really appreciate that and the support that you provide to all of our organizations in Evanston. I just wanted to point out, and I just wanted to point out that the percentage of budget, I think, is a bit of an apples to oranges comparison. It looks like some of the budgets are program budgets, whereas others like ours are our entire organizational budget. And there's other considerations to be taken into account. So I just wanted to highlight that. So the 4%, for instance, does not reflect the amount of the actual program budget, our substance use treatment, specifically for the city of Evanston, for sure, and in general, that Peer Services provides. And we're providing 25% of our services to Evanston, and the gap that we're seeing is significant between reimbursement and actual costs. So just wanted to highlight that. And for other organizations, my guess is, again, the program budget versus org budget is going to look different for each one.
Thank you so much, Anne. Do you have a sense of your program, of the program budget percentage from Evanston? Right? And
again, I think it's around 25% of our substance use treatment budget.
Okay, so I wasn't sure when you said 25% was Evanston residents. I thought it was 20% of those you serve, but it's 25% of your budget is coming from Evanston funding.
No, it's a little bit hard to, sorry, I'm not explaining this well.
Oh, no.
So a significant amount of the gap between our services to Evanston residents and the actual cost of services, between the cost of services and our reimbursement to Evanston residents, you know, ends up being about $100,000. So in terms of how much, I think because we have fee for service, we receive funding. I'm sorry, I'm not making a lot of sense right now. I just wanted to know that it's a much higher percentage than that 4%. I think it is around 20 to 25%.
No, it's very helpful. And I think, and I so appreciate you calling that out. And I think, Jessica, that's something to be clear on the applications next year. Organization budget percentage and then program percentage budget, just to make sure that we can make these informed decisions, especially if we're already sort of preparing for some hedging. So thank you, Anne, and that's very helpful to call out. Very, very helpful.
Okay, next I have Liz Novak from Connections.
Hi.
Liz, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you. I tried not to ask the question that everyone asked, but I should have just asked it. I just want to go back to, there was an earlier conversation when this all got started about the connections in our youth programs. And I just want to clarify, for transparency's sake, Connections Youth Programs is an existing program. That program is there and running, and those staff are in those roles. So I heard folks saying seed funding, and seed funding in my head means sort of like initial investments to get something launched that doesn't exist. These are programs that are in operation. So I just wanted to be transparent about that this isn't something that is something we're launching from the ground up that's not currently in place.
Thank you so much, Liz. And, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ken, did you have a question?
No, I was just saying thank you. Sorry, I shouldn't have butt in.
No, you should have. No, I just wanted to make sure I didn't cut you off. And my also saying thank you. Liz, I have. Oh,
I'm sorry, I booted Liz. I mean, she's an attendee.
It's okay. It's all right. We have a comment from Sarah.
Yes, hello everyone. This is Sarah from Thresholds. As stated earlier, I definitely have so much respect for the time, the effort, and just the investment of emotion, and just to pull a budget like this together. Definitely the need is there. And I did want to speak, of course, specifically relating to Thresholds and providing services for senior buildings through, with the Housing Authority of Cook County. So we are, and I don't believe this has been reflected, we are currently operating our program budget at a deficit. And we're pulling funds from other sources to help keep the staffing in place, because we do really believe in the services and the care management provided to individuals in these residences. And with a further reduction, we would be challenged to either look at reducing the number of hours or services, or we would have to look at some other alternatives. Right now, the way things are structured is our staff already have a large caseload, and there are still many individuals in these buildings that are still being outreached and engaged. So the membership is larger than what one staff can perform. So our goal, and we'd love to see this providing more services available to more individuals, and love to see it grow. But again, the challenge comes down to the money and what's available. And we also, do have to keep in mind, we want to make sure that we can keep, staff retention and ensure that members do have the contact, the connections, the relationships, and the support that will keep them engaged and supported. So reduction in time with members, reduction in services, we notice results in disengagement, and that would be our primary concern. So with the current funding, if we were funded at $60,000, we would overall be operating at almost a $40,000 deficit for this program. So that would be a difficult one to maintain. And I just wanted to share that and the impact that may not have been reflected otherwise.
And I think, I think we would have loved to have funded, at 10,000 higher at your full request, or at the full request of 70,000, because we unfortunately, I don't see where we would find those additional dollars at this point, unfortunately.
Before I promote the next
attendee, can I just say thank you to everyone. I am going to request that, just like with public comment, we keep this to about 2 minutes. And with that, I am going to promote Patrick Keenan-Dublin from the Rand Center.
Good evening, folks. Can you hear me?
Can, Patrick.
Thank you so much. I don't know why my camera's not on, but I am here. And I'd like to echo my colleagues' prior comments and just thank you. I know tonight was a challenging discussion. And I actually really debated whether to say anything tonight because I'm a grantee and you're a grantor, and there's a power dynamic. But I'm a resident of the city, and I felt compelled to share my thoughts and to be in just relationship, as I believe we should all strive to be. I think it's important to be transparent. I have to be honest, I was disappointed by tonight's conversation. I heard the committee at the top end talk about how all of us provide critical needs and services. And I don't know if the intent was to make that statement up front so as the rest of the conversation could then be centered on program percentage of requests of programs, program budgets. It seemed that sentiment got lost in some more arbitrary factors, and that, I have to admit, was disappointing to me tonight. I also have to admit I was disappointed to even learn that cuts were coming, and maybe I missed the memo. But at one point, Madam Chair, it was talked about this committee has an obligation to telegraph what's coming to the social services sector. And I did not realize that this was happening tonight. And I would admit that, if I think many of us in the social services sector knew that these cuts were coming, I think more advocacy would have been had, either one in this committee or at City Council, demanding additional allocations in the budgeting process. So I realize I've probably gone over my time, and I hope that my comments were respectful. They were not meant to be harmful or disrespectful in any way, shape, or form. But I had to speak and be transparent that I felt that the centering comments at the top were lost to more arbitrary factors going forward in tonight's conversation. And I also want the committee to know that I can't speak on behalf of the whole social services sector. I was really taken off guard by tonight's discussion, not recognizing that cuts were impending and that they were going to be as severe as they were tonight. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And thank you for taking the time.
Next, we have Diana Newton
from Infant Welfare Society.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can, Diana.
Thank you. And I'm going to echo everybody else and say thank you for this process. I've been to many of these in different cities, and I know it's always hard. I'm brand new to infant welfare as of last October, so I'm learning about the agency, the community. What I just wanted to reflect on is that I think that we have been receiving this money for quite a while, and maybe some others in case management. Our request was the same. We didn't increase our requests, even though costs have gone up. So that was just a factor to consider. And it feels like, if I misunderstood it, but I thought the cut was 30%. So we're taking the full cut of 30%, whereas that's not the case across the board. So just a thought, maybe you had initially talked about looking at what the requests were last year, or what you had funded, and maybe starting from there. So I just thought that might be a fair way to look at it as well. So, but again, I'm learning about the process and how you all allocate. I appreciate your time. I just wanted to make those comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diana. I think we're all learning and going through. I mean, we've had extra federal funding that has made this process simpler than this evening. And we are losing CARES Act funding. And that is where the cuts are coming from, is we knew we had some funding that would not continue into perpetuity. But I do think that is a good call out, that the reductions, because we did the percentages off of the request for some, because for everybody, even though there could be some differences there. So that's something I think we should post public comment potentially just discuss.
Thanks, Diana. Okay, and the last hand I see is for Marcus King from the Housing Authority of Cook County.
Oh, yes. Hey, everyone. I'll be brief because I know we're pressed for time and it's getting late, but I just want to go ahead and thank you all. I know these are definitely some difficult decisions, and I just wanted to go ahead and put it out there. We do appreciate the funding, and if it increases a little bit, we'll definitely appreciate that as well. But I just want to say I value the relationship that we have with Thresholds. Our residents really love the service that they provide, and the caregivers that Thresholds actually has, they call her by her first name. So we've definitely seen a lot of improvement. So I know this was a difficult night for you all. but I definitely want to thank you for the funding that we've received thus far, because it has made a significant difference, and we really do appreciate you for that. So thank you to the committee, and thank you for Thresholds for partnering with us. We just wouldn't be able to function in that area without Sarah Reichert and her staff.
Thank you, Marcus.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, committee members. We've heard additional public comment. I'll pause for response, reaction from committee members.
One is I obviously misspoke regarding seeding and seed money versus seedling, as in developing and nurturing on. So I'm glad that the attending cleared that up regarding Connections to the Homeless for their youth program. I did understand they had a youth program. Unfortunately, for all of the programs, because we all love these programs very much, this is for me not just a reckless random act. This is a painful act of love that I don't dismiss the work that any of them do, because we care so much for this city and the residents in it, as most of us are all one. So this is not easy, though I do appreciate the comments and statements that organizations have made, and I understand. I've been on the other side of this table. I truly understand that this is very hard, but I hope that none of them feel that we make these decisions lightly. We just make them calmly.
Thank you, Kathleen. Councilmember Burns.
Yeah, the only thing I just want to quick on is that the recommendations that I'm seeing here marked in kind of highlighted in yellow, are these only based on the averages of kind of committee member input or other factors?
So we started with averages. That was a beginning of the conversation, but then we really walked through each section and came with a number.
Okay. And you don't have to go over that. That's what I thought. I just wanted to confirm that. Okay.
Yeah, no, we had discussions on case management and then the safety net services, and really walked through for both case management and safety net services, the proportion of the budget and sort of where they were. And yeah.
Thank you.
Reiterated the difficulty of the task at hand. And also, just so you know, council member did say if the council wanted to give us some more pennies, we would be happy to increase our allocations. Just so you know. Other comments from the committee or any adjustments? I'm seeing.
So sorry, I didn't mean to cut the conversation
Short, but if there are no adjustments, our next step would be to review each recommendation and vote.
Okay, and for that, Jessica, do we vote like for case management and read all of the numbers and then vote for that group, or do we read for Connections for the Homeless Youth Program and vote and like each one?
So we would start with the case management section, read each one, vote, and then move to safety net, read each one and vote, and then support services, with the understanding that if more funds became available through CDBG or any other source, that would be brought back. These would be the initial allocations. These would be the allocations that would be recommended to City Council.
And Chair, just a point of information. Do I have the floor? I'm sorry. I didn't want to.
Oh, yes. I'm so sorry. I just paused.
No,
yes,
no, you're fine.
absolutely.
My reception is a little well over the place. I just want to make sure I didn't cut anybody off. Why, and this, I guess, just to Jessica, why do you think we need to do it individually? We can't, you don't think we can move this all at once, or what's the, is that a requirement, or is it just, it's just a better practice to vote on each one individually?
It's a better practice to vote on each one individually, because that is the amount that I will use for service agreements with agencies. And
so
then,
you just want to make sure it's clear. Okay. Yep.
Thank you, Councilmember. Amanda.
I just wanted to put on the record that I don't know how we'll do it, but I do think that we need to increase the connections programming. You know, if it's an ongoing program and it's not, you know, our conversation has been about how 20% is really not impactful. I just wanted to say that for the record. I don't know how we'll do, you know, I just wanted to add that piece that I think we deserve more.
And I don't know if Sarah's still on, and if she is, that was sort of my, you know, they made a request of $75,000. And I did sort of want to ask what, it's an existing program. I mean, we're not funding it currently, but it's an existing program. What would that 20,000, what does that mean?
So Liz from Connections
is still
I'm sorry,
an
Liz.
attendee. No, that's fine. Can I promote her to talk? All right, Liz.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to respond to that, Jessica and Charles Fry. So I heard this brought up in other contexts at Connections, like some other agencies. We had lost some federal funding this past year that has helped support our youth programs. And so now we're trying to figure out how to fill that gap. And part of this be to help fill the gap in that youth program work and maintain the level of case management services that we're providing to young people in our housing programs, that 18 to 24, 18 to 26-year-old range, and really provide what we know is the robust services they need to successfully exit from those housing programs into long-term sustainable housing.
Thank you, Liz. Very helpful answer from my perspective. All right, so I have a concept from Amanda to increase the Connections funding. It is an existing program that, to paraphrase from Liz, lost federal funding, and they're trying to find alternative funding streams. I think very similar to Child Care Network losing alternative funding streams. Obviously, we don't have additional dollars in a very clear spot, but Kathy, would you like to?
Yeah, I was just going to comment that many of these organizations, due to the ending of the federal funding, have lost significant amounts of funding. That's why we're in the position, or the painful position that we are right now. And I hope they understand that we understand, many of them do. Unfortunately, this is the pot that we have of funds. Again, I know I sound like a broken record. We are not trying to, we're trying to do what we can to help nurture along a lot of the losses, but we still have a limited amount of funds. So I don't know. I'm willing to bend to the will of the committee, but I beseech you that we still have only so many funds, and the funds that we allocate are the funds that we promise. We need to keep our promise. That's it for me.
Kathy.
Kathy, sorry, which promise are you referring to?
The promise that we're about to make when we make the vote on the recommendation to the council. That promise. That's what I was referring to. Thank you.
Amanda, you sort of put it out there. I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of connections. Did you have a?
I mean, I guess I'll just say, like, if we go ahead with a vote, I guess I would probably be a dissenter, because I just feel like, why should connections take such a big, it's not proportional, like the level of hurt that people are feeling. And I mean, obviously I'm coming from that perspective because I let everyone know what my process was and my own individual determinations. But I feel like we ended up with 20,000 for them because we had kind of latched on to that notion of seed money, but it's actually not, that wasn't actually correct. It's not a new agency that could possibly benefit from starter money. I don't know how we could reshuffle, because I think the other agencies are also really deserving. You know, we heard how it's what we're offering here isn't going to help some people. So I don't have any solutions, but it does feel a bit unfair to me that Connections is left with 20 when they requested 75 and other agencies requested 75 and got more.
So your recommendation would be to just across case management, or both, to just give an equal percentage?
I mean, that's not how we did it, but that's when I had to offer my own personal suggestions. That's how I did it, but that's not how our committee, which is fine. I'm just saying, to me, it just feels more fair because it hurts all over the place, and we're kind of making a determination on like who should bear more of the burden than others. But it's okay. I'm just saying, it just to me feels unfair that Connections, I mean, once we were sort of corrected with what we were thinking, it just feels like what we're offering, and it doesn't feel adequate.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I get what you're saying, Amanda. I do. I just can't figure out how to
Same here. I don't know how to take
Yeah.
away from anyone else,
Yeah.
But I'm
That's
I'm just saying, for the record, I think that they deserve more and they shouldn't be the ones left with 20, just because we were under the false premise that it's a new program when it's not. So
no, I think if you're uncomfortable with their allocation, I think unfortunately the only alternative is that we find additional funding. I don't know if we want to take a look at, I think it was Diana. I realize I should have written down names, but with Infant Welfare Center or Society that also raised, we did a percentages off of 2023 requests, where some agencies increased and some didn't increase their requests. And that, there was that sort of thought of unfairness as well. Because like, if you look at the percent, for any of these, there is some discrepancy there. I don't know if that offers you, I don't know what that would look like, Amanda, if that would get you, using the 22 award amount where available.
I mean, honestly, when I look at what I proposed people get, I don't think we can like reshuffle it all. Like I said, I don't have an answer, because that's not really like the process that we use. And I don't want to like fail the agency either, but I guess I I think we'd have to reshuffle everything in order to give them more. I don't know if folks want to do that. I feel like they deserve more, and that's kind of what I wanted to put on the record. If people want to reshuffle, I'm willing to do it. It just doesn't seem fair that like, here's an agency that made a similar request to others and they get 27% and others are getting a lot more. But I don't have any solutions. But I just had to say something. I couldn't not say it. So.
No, I think that's fair to call out. And I mean, I think I will just say on the record, I think every organization listed here should get additional funding. I would like to, when I went through for case management and for safety net, and when we went for our last meeting, I mean, I thought everybody's request was reasonable. And I thought every program would strengthen Evanston social safety net and would, support our neighbors. So I guess by coming up with an allocation, for council, I don't want it to sound as though I think that, Books and Breakfast shouldn't get additional dollars, or Child Network shouldn't get Child Care Network shouldn't get additional dollars, or Infant Welfare Society. I think, from my standpoint, every one of these organizations does amazing work. And it's a hard task. I mean, my other thought, as we sort of, and I think this is sort of underpinning your connections for the homeless piece too, is, or potentially is like, at some point giving a little amount to a lot of individual groups, it unfortunately leaves them trying to find somewhere else to plug those holes, right? Jessica and Kathy, you both have your hands up.
I just wanted to say, as a point of clarification, Kathy, if I can go first, that the column G, the percent of request, it's the percent of the request of the prior year award, not the ask. And for new programs, the percent of request is only for new programs. For everyone else, it was based on prior year awards. And I think everybody got that, but I just wanted to clarify in case there was any thought. It is not based on the 2023 requests for returning applicants.
Correct. What I meant, I apologize, is that when we made committee allocations, we based it off of 2023 requests when we had the discussions. And so that's why you see some greater variance, because column G isn't off the request, it's off of column C. Kathy?
What I was going to say is the committee open to reorganizing the amounts? It was my basic question.
Derek?
For case management, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I'm hoping Derek raised his hand to answer your question.
Oh, I don't know. Thank you, Chair. I don't know if I have a direct answer to Kathy's question there. I think that if we were to do that, if we were to take the time to do that, which is fine. I mean, I'm happy to spend the time to do that. But I think the feelings of unfairness that a lot of us have felt with certain agencies and how they were allocated and what we decided on, I think there's gonna be more of that whipped up if we take a different approach here in terms of reassigning these values. So I want to call that out. The fact that we put all this on the screen for so long, that so many folks watching, representatives from these wonderful agencies, I feel like we're going to create more of that sentiment of unfairness. So I just want to make sure we were thinking about that.
Yeah, I think that's a good a good call out. And I'll just share, I think I feel I am very happy to work through again, Amanda, this, like, you know, I'm very happy to reallocate. I just also think Derek's not wrong in the sense that given the task before us, I don't think I'm never going to feel really great about where the allocations are.
Yeah. I think we should move on. I don't think that what I've said is necessarily supported in the committee. Not that people don't think that Connections deserves more money, but just that, you know, so it's okay if we move on. I just wanted to get it on the record that that's how I felt. And it's okay if people feel differently, so.
Ken, did you want to add anything?
Did you call me?
I did. Yeah. It looked like you had unmuted, but I didn't want to.
Yeah. No, I think we should move on. I'm really thinking about how we do this process in the future and how do we. And I'm more focused on that. I can't see how we can satisfactorily reallocate funding without. Well, I just don't know how to do it. So.
Right. Then I would need a motion if that is the direction of the committee.
So moved.
Thank you, Derek. I'll need a second.
A second.
Thank you. The motion on the floor is to approve the case management allocations as follows. Connections for Homeless for their youth program at $20,000. Family focused case management at $83,200. Housing Authority of Cook County care management for senior buildings at $60,000. Impact Behavioral Health clinical service case management at $20,000. Infant Welfare Society case management for we'll just case management for $52,000, and then the James B. Moran Center for case management at $60,000, for a total allocation for case management at $295,200. Jessica, will you call the roll?
Thank you. Chair Fry.
Yes, with the hope that we will get additional dollars from council to fill some of these gaps.
Vice Chair Ohanian.
Aye.
Amanda Nicola.
Nay.
Kathy Hayes.
No, aye.
Ken Rowling. Ken Rowling.
I'm not sure people can hear you that well. You sound like you're.
Sorry, I'll get closer. Okay, Councilmember Burns.
I'm recusing because I was unable to. I missed the majority of the meeting due to a scheduling conflict.
Okay. And Ken Rowling.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes with a 4 vote approval, 1 against, and 1 abstaining.
Did you get Ms. Lackey?
Oh, I apologize. Cherie, I apologize.
That's okay. Aye.
Thank you. Sorry, you fell off my screen there.
Thank you, Kathy. I was wondering the same thing, but thought I had missed it. Thank you so much, Kathy, for that.
Thank you.
I need a second motion for safety net services.
So moved.
Thank you. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. The motion before us is to fund the following for safety net services: books and breakfast for advancing racial equity at $42,400. Child Care Network Learning Together at $56,000. Child Care Network Mental Health Services at $40,000. Connections for the Homeless Drop-In and Outreach Center, $78,800. Infant Welfare Society at $20,000. Interfaith Action Cold Weather Shelter at $60,000. The James B. Moran Center Legal Services at $37,800. Meals on Wheels for home delivered meals at $26,000. Sorry, I want to make sure I get that right. $25,000. North Shore Senior Center at $20,000. Peer Services Substance Use Treatment at $69,900. YOU Safety Net at $96,000, and the YWCA Evanston North Shore for domestic violence at $20,000, for a total subtotal for safety net service allocation of $565,900. Jessica, will you call the roll, please?
Charles Fry.
I'll just reiterate that there are gaps that we would like to fill, but aye.
Vice Chair Ohanian.
Aye.
Thank you. Amanda Ngola.
Aye.
Thank you. Kathy Hayes.
Aye.
Cherie Lackey.
Aye.
Ken Rowling. Ken Rowling. Councilmember Burns.
Abstaining for the reason previously provided.
And Ken Rowling.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. The motion carries
6-0 with 1 abstention.
And then we also have to motion on support services.
Correct.
I just need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. I need a second.
Aye. Second.
Thank you. The motion before us is to allocate $122,773 to support services. And it should be very transparent that this is a reduction of $74,002 to council in order to avoid further reductions in safety net funding, and that this could create a further discussion in our next fiscal, our next allocation. And with that, Jessica, will you call the roll?
Thank you. Charles Fry.
Aye.
Vice Chair Ohanian.
Aye.
Thank you. Amanda Ngola.
Aye.
Kathy Hayes.
Aye.
Cherie Lackey.
Aye.
Thank you. Ken Rowling.
Aye.
And Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was the, we also have a staff report, Jessica.
So I don't have
much of a staff report. In February, my hope is to review the process, our allocation process with committee members. And no, I hope to have additional updates about the mental health provider program. But staff has been in contact with some of the providers and with our case management partners to work out what services would look like. So more soon. And that's it.
Thank you. All right. Do we have anybody indicating any further public comments? All right. Before we adjourn, I just want to thank all the committee members for your thoughtful discussion. I know that I spent quite a bit of time reviewing all of these reports, doing my best to come up with allocations, and it was an imperfect and felt challenging task. And with that, I think somebody had the time to click their button for additional public comment.
Yes, thank you. I'm promoting
Ali Harned to speak.
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can, Ellie.
Okay, hi. I just wanted to say that I have been paying attention to this meeting, and I really appreciate all the work that you all are doing. I know these are really, really difficult decisions. And I just want to honor the people who spoke from the agencies that are looking at these dollars and the cuts and trying to figure out what to do about it. And just say, like, spreadsheets are awesome and that they do these magical math manipulation things, but we're, and I know you know this, that these are human beings and critical services that are being delivered to our people in Evanston. And so it's hard to know, like, cutting a percentage, like what that means when, say, for example, an agency is asking for the amount to be able to pay for a staff member. They can't hire like half a staff member. So it's just difficult. So I know that you've already said that, like, the process is challenging and that you're going to be looking at how to do it differently. I would invite anybody to attend like our land meetings, like I talked about last time, that it's a monthly meeting where there are service providers from a variety of agencies coming to talk about what they're working on, and just to have a sense of some of the great work that's being done by these agencies. And anything else that you could do to really, like, have eyes on the actual work that's being done by everybody, to just feel like you have a better sense of what the dollars are going for. And I would encourage our council member on the call to encourage his colleagues to allocate more funding, because clearly it's needed. So I thank you very much for your time, and just wanted to let you know that I'm here and I do appreciate all the work that you're doing.
But thank you, Ali. And I think all of us in various ways, you know, work with these organizations, see great value, whether I'm sure folks attend the land meetings, and there are other ways we all work with I work with several of these organizations and see great value in very different capacity, see great value in everything that you guys are doing. And I guess I'll end from my standpoint with where Ali said of, you know, obviously there's a larger need than we have a current allocation for. And we look forward to having enough allocation to meet the need. And with that,
I'm sorry, there's one other hand raised for public comment. Can I invite Carol Teskey from CNE?
Yes, Carol.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes. I just wanted to say thank you. We, all of us, all of the non-for-profits and all of you making these very difficult decisions are trying to achieve the same goal. And I just want to say thank you, because it's a very hard process. We're all trying to reach the same successes for others. And so I just appreciate all the time and thought that went into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. And with that, oh, we have more people.
Yes. I'm promoting
Pamela Staples from Infant Welfare Society.
Pam, can you hear us?
Hello.
There you are.
We can hear you, Pam.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to, hi, I'm Pamela Staples, and I'm calling from the Infant Welfare Society of Evanston. And I just want to piggyback off Carol. I just want to say thank you all as well. I know there's some hard decisions to make, and I respect them. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Pam, did I remove?
I'm bringing Pam back. Did I remove your permission to talk too soon? Pamela, did you have more? I apologize.
I'm done. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And with that, I believe we can adjourn. Jessica? Again, thank you, committee members. Thank you, audience. And most importantly, thank you, social safety net organizations that are making our city better. We very much appreciate you.
Thank you, committee members.
Wonderful, wonderful work.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Yep.